All right, let's just get right into it. We're always told that capital is about money, about wealth. But what if that's just the cover story? Today, we're diving into a really radical theory that says capital isn't what you think it is at all. It's not about money, it's about control. So let's just throw out the textbook for a minute. We all learn this stuff in school, right? Capital is just wealth, assets, money in the bank. But what if the real purpose is something totally different, something way more fundamental? What if it's not about what the system builds up, but about what it controls? Okay, so check this out. On one side, you've got the standard definition. Capital is things, cash, stocks, property. But the source we're looking at flips that on its head. It says capital is actually a mechanism, a machine, and it's designed for just one thing, to harvest human energy. And in our world today, what's our most precious energy? It's our attention, it's our focus. See, according to this view, making a few people super rich is just a perk. It's a side effect. The real prize, the actual goal, is to get an entire population to focus all of its collective energy on tasks that a ruling class has decided on. It's really about controlling where society puts its attention. Let me put it this way. Imagine a farmer who grows just enough grain for his family. He can spend the rest of his day doing, well, whatever he wants, right? But a system that can make that same guy obsess over working and planting and harvesting day in and day out, now that's real power. The goal isn't to create a wealthier, happy society. It's to create an energetic and, most importantly, a focused one. Okay, so you're probably wondering, how on earth would a system like this actually work? Well, according to the source, the elite, or what it calls the landlord class, has spent centuries perfecting three core techniques to command our energy and our attention. All right, so here they are, the system's three big pillars. First up, the illusion of freedom. The theory goes that a worker who thinks they're building their own dream will always work harder than a slave. Second, you make capital abstract. You go from grain, something physical, to gold, then to digital money, something you can never really hold, an infinite idea you can chase forever. And then there's the third pillar, and it's by far the most powerful one, anxiety. Yeah, anxiety. This is the real engine of the whole machine. The source says things like debt are designed to keep you on a treadmill forever. The fear of poverty keeps the middle class working hard, just to stay afloat. But this is where it gets really dark. The theory claims that massive economic depressions and even wars, they aren't accidents. They are designed wealth destruction events. It's like a landlord burning a farmer's extra grain. It forces you to start from scratch and makes sure you never get comfortable enough to be truly free. Now, you gotta ask, right? To run a system this ruthless, the people at the top would have to do some pretty terrible things. So how do they get around basic human morality? Well, the source we're looking at proposes they use some serious psychological hacks, and that these are often used within secret societies. Think of these societies as the hidden software, the operating system that runs the whole global show. I mean, how do these super rich folks from all over the world coordinate? How do they trust each other not to backstab one another? Well, these groups are supposedly the answer, providing that hidden framework for trust and cooperation. So what kind of mind games are we talking about here? The source points to two classic psychology experiments. The Milgram experiment proved that normal people will literally inflict pain on others if someone in a lab coat tells them to. And the Asch experiment showed we'll deny what we can see with our own eyes just to fit in with a group. Now, just imagine for a second. What happens when you combine those two powerful forces? And this is where the theory gets really out there. It claims these secret societies give their members a psychological escape hatch. By invoking a higher power, sometimes even a dark one like Satan or Saturn, they can tell themselves they're just following orders. It becomes the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card for your conscience, supposedly allowing them to do terrible things without feeling any guilt. And if you thought that was dark, well, it gets worse. The source describes an even more intense method of control, one that's rooted in trauma. It's basically weaponized Stockholm Syndrome. You start by completely shattering a person's sense of reality. Their mind literally detaches, it disassociates, just to survive. In that broken state, they become totally dependent on their abuser, forming this twisted but incredibly powerful bond of loyalty. It's a terrifying recipe for creating a perfectly obedient agent. Now, a system this complex doesn't just pop into existence, right? Of course not. The source argues it was built up over centuries, piece by piece, getting more powerful and more refined with each new version. We're basically looking at a historical relay race of power,
It starts with the trading empires of Venice, then the baton gets passed to the Dutch Republic with its financial innovations, then to the massive British Empire, and finally, it lands in America. And each time it was passed, the system got an upgrade. It became more abstract, harder to see, and a whole lot more powerful.
The Dutch era was a real game changer. The source argues that Calvinism provided the perfect psychological software for capitalism. Imagine you believe that God has already decided if you're going to heaven or hell, and there's nothing you can do about it. How terrifying is that? There's just one little clue. If you get rich, it's a sign you're one of the good ones. This created this incredible anxiety to work and succeed. But you couldn't spend your money on luxuries. That was a sin. So you had to reinvest it, creating the perfect fuel for the world's first modern banking system.
And then England came along with an absolute masterstroke, the Bank of England. On the outside, it looked like a government institution, but on the inside, it was privately owned. This created the ultimate business model. Private bankers could lend money to the government to fight its wars and keep all the profit. And if the wars went badly and they lost money, no problem. The public, the taxpayers, would cover the loss. It's the perfect setup, isn't it? Heads, the bankers win. Tails, you lose. So what does that kind of power actually look like? Well, take a look at this number, $45 trillion. That's the estimated amount of wealth that this source says was siphoned out of India, just India, during the time of the British Empire. An absolutely staggering number that basically bankrolled the Industrial Revolution.
Okay, so that brings us closer to home, to the modern era. The theory goes that as the British Empire started to fade, this whole system, this entire blueprint for control didn't just disappear. It packed its bags and moved to the new rising power, the United States. And this is where we get a really provocative question. We all know the stories of the great American robber barons, right? Rockefeller, Carnegie, Morgan, these titans of industry, the ultimate pull-yourself-up-by-your-bootstraps guys. But what if that story isn't true? What if they weren't self-made at all, but were actually agents, financed by British capital, with a mission to monopolize America's most important industries? And the crown jewel of this whole operation, according to the source, was the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913. The argument here is that it's basically the Bank of England model, just with an American flag slapped on it. A group of private banks is given total control over the nation's money supply, putting them in the driver's seat of the entire economy. So, does this playbook still work today? The source says, absolutely. Just look at big tech. You take publicly funded military technology, like the internet, and you hand it over to a few private individuals. It creates a new myth of the self-made billionaire propping up the American dream. But the real goal, the source argues, is to roll out mass surveillance and data harvesting. We would never let the government do it so openly, but we'll gladly sign up when it comes with a friendly user interface from a tech company. It's the same old trick, just repackaged for the digital age. And if you want to see the real-world impact of all this, just look at this chart. It's staggering. In 1700, India was an absolute economic giant, making up a quarter of the entire world's economy. Fast forward to 1950, after the British system had been in place, and it's down to just 4%. This right here is what the source would call Exhibit A for the system's power to drain a nation's energy. And that brings us to the most chilling idea in this whole thing, the big takeaway from the source. What if the stock market crashes, the depressions, even the massive wars? What if they aren't accidents? What if they're not bugs in the system, but features? Intentional resets designed to wipe the slate clean, destroy any wealth that people have built up, and keep everyone trapped in that state of anxiety, forever working, forever focused. So I'll leave you with this final thought. What if it's true?